He's okay. Oh, I'll wait till your friend has
Oh.
Oh. Oh.
There before, was it? Hey, Dirty, this is Ali Fazal in conversation with Gillian Anderson. But by the way, thank you. Thank you for writing the book. I'm still like, I think I'm halfway through.
Oh wow, that's very impressive.
Oh man, it's a freaking journey. Like, what?
Yeah, I know. Thank you very much for even opening the book. It's very interesting to always along the journey to speak to men who have read any part of it at all and to get their sense of it. I'd love to ask, how do you feel like the book would do if it was published in India? Do you think people would buy it?
Oh, it'd be a raging success.
Just even the fact that you and your wife have made this film is pretty extraordinary, and I understand that the two of you are activists and quite unusually outspoken about various aspects of, particularly for women and equality.
Well, I mean, this film was actually, well, it's our first production, and it happened to be written by Shuchi, who's a friend of Richa's, my wife's, and it's essentially a mother-daughter love story. And it's based, it's about a young teenage girl coming of age, exploring her sexuality, and then, of course, battling this very, very nuanced relationship with her mother, because that's a relationship, I think, especially in Indian cinema or even cinema outside, I don't think we've really explored. It's always the father daughters or the mother sons that we always get to see, and also very, very extreme versions of those. But I think we got really confident when we made the film. We won a lot of grants and then took it to Sundance, and we won Sundance, and she won Best Actor. And I think it's just been a really, really nice journey all the way, the whole year, last year.
Do you feel as if this film, in a sense, for you is the next level of that same conversation in a way? Because potentially it's quite an unusual step for you to be taking?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't. I mean, we seldom find cinema that explores this kind of these dynamics.
Yeah.
Just to be able to sit with one's head. And a teenage girl is definitely going through a lot. I mean, you're a mother, right? And you've got
Yeah.
two. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got three. And you have a daughter, is that
I
correct?
have a daughter now, and she's like 6.5 months. This is really
6.5 months. Oh wow, young. I thought you were gonna say yeah. She's not there yet. She's not there dating.
Yeah, she's not there yet. She's not. It freaks me out, the thought of it. But yeah, it's happening. It's rolling out. And but yeah, we're proud. We're proud that we could at least put something out there. For one, the cinema that we've always liked to watch, and then to have conversations around this. Just giving women agency even in a film, right? I've always noticed films are very extremes, right? You don't have just a film about a working woman, or so it's somebody either going through a sexual trauma or violence or a masculine narrative, like I think even though it's a very realistic film, I'm still a champion of the classic Bollywood cinema, which also has song and dance. And I very late in my life I realized, it was not all that bad. It was actually an escapist, almost like the fantasies you have written in your book.
It's funny. It's funny. I've never actually thought of Bollywood films before as being almost like a manifestation of fantasy. But of course,
Yeah. So there was a time when women could. So there's a very famous, one of the more famous folk dances. I mean, erotica is old to India. It is like it's
Yes.
there. It's back there in the manuscripts. Of course, now we don't like to even use the word sex before education, but that's another problem that we're dealing with because of the politics of our world. But one of those dances, very famous, in fact, from the state that I'm in Maharashtra, it's called the Lavani. And the lavani is performed by these women, and it's this sexual dance, but it's also for a male audience, right? And it's very respectful, but uh, it's essentially talking about women's desires.
Right.
And sometimes when you are not allowed to have those dialogues in normal parlance, in normal life, you then take refuge in poetry. And of course, it's ever evolving, right? Like, it's changing because art imitates life, imitates art. It's always a back and forth. And
Where does the fear come from of a woman being able to either speak up or to speak about things that she may want or to be emancipated?
because we've, like I said, the men have not been taught to listen. So, um, it's those conversations never happen. We were never taught to be able to talk to women about what they really want. And women almost became the gatekeepers, of that sexuality, and men were the predators, right? Um, and and I think somewhere we're still struggling with that bridging that gap. Like, there's a journey between the yes and the no, right? It's not binary. That's not. And and I think there's something interesting in that maybe, that maybe is where, like, I think it's so defined for especially the heterosexual peeps, right? As opposed to even the queer population, where I think it's still not there. It's not very. There are no definitions yet, and so you see that thriving in a weird sense, actually. But I suppose there's so much conditioning to unpack, and we're not giving space for that unconditioning to happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, how do you see you're an actor, right? I'm an actor myself. Like, we live in fantasies. Even in your book, I think you've mentioned it beautifully, that that's literally our profession. We get to escape
Yes.
without the baggage of it, and come back, and and still have some agency there, and then come back to whatever we are doing. When I'm reading those letters, it's a deep dive into really very specific individuals that you've picked, for the book. But do you ever feel like, what would be the true sense of, let's say, your nature, and how would you react? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I guess that the two things that were the most surprising to me in the book, and this is, a book that was contributed to by women around the world. So the takeaway from them is the level of shame, even in the West, that still exists. Just even of, having a conversation
yeah, that was a common thread.
about, yeah, about desire and wishes. At the end of the day, so many of the letters from women were about wanting to be, seen for exactly who and how they are, not the fantasized, perfectionized version of themselves, but the real version of themselves to see reflected back in their partner love and desire for who they are, exactly how they are.
How do you look at fantasy?
The invitation to be creative, to create a narrative, to tell a story. I'm inviting you to put pen to paper, so to speak, and allow your imagination to go wild. And, I was hoping too that women would have the experience of tapping into that creativity and that it might open something in them, and whether that opens them up to more writing or opens them up to having thoughts about, you know, what it is that they actually want outside of fantasy in the bedroom, but just what they want, period, from their lives. Once you start writing about desire, it's very easy to start moving one's thinking towards actually what you might want from your life that you're not getting, what you might want from your partner that you might not be getting. Forget the bedroom, but just in everyday life. And I
Oh,
find
yeah.
that interesting and quite radical, potentially.
Yeah, potentially very therapeutic. And but do you ever wonder, like, how does it I mean, these are crazy times, right? We're literally witnessing, what, two wars, three, four wars across the globe. Things are polarized, people are literally dying, and suddenly, um, I, I, I almost sometimes, like, personally, I feel guilty uh, to, to, to almost be in a privileged position where I can escape. You know, I have that. And I wonder what desire is what? I mean, it's some sort of freedom. And there's an entire bunch of people who don't have that, an idea of that, or whatever we make of that. And I wonder, where does that leave us? What, you know, I mean, these are great conversations, but
Well, I mean, for me, what you're doing with this film, Girls Will Be Girls, etc. Anytime I think someone makes a decision to move the narrative within a society into another area that hasn't been explored before, or give someone a voice that maybe a culture is not used to hearing, or highlighting a type of, you know, person or way of living, I mean, to me, that is just as important, you know, that's giving a voice to those who don't have a voice previously, whether, you know, and that's kind of the only way that cultures can move forward, right? And we can expand our minds and our consciousness to even imagine that things can be different than how we are used to them being from one day to the next. If you don't see it in front of you and you don't see it on screen or on film, you know, then where else are you going to see it? So I think it's important to have that kind of representation. So the fact that you and your wife are doing that, even in you know, in a small way or a big way, I think is really important.
thank you. Do the politics ever affect you when you're performing, when you're picking scripts?
No, I mean they affect me more in, you know, in other ways that I show up in my life, in the activism that I do, or when I'm speaking about, you know, speaking around the book, particularly in terms of, you know, women's voices, women's rights. I mean, I do a lot of charity work, and some of the work that I do is specifically for women in war zones.
Yeah.
And I feel like outside of my work, I end up getting political, or at least trying to make a difference in a way. And sometimes in the work that I do as an actor, but more outside of it.
Fair enough.
I mean, given that you have a daughter, and even though she's only 6.5 months old, if you were to imagine her, is there an area of Indian society that you would like to see moved forward by the time she becomes, say, a teenager or a young woman in her early 20s? Is there something that you would like to see?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What would that be?
My God. I mean, if there was the perfect world, we would have, for instance, even the stuff we were talking about, sex education, right? Um, have more fun ways to understand what that is, that entire world, because it's a taste. It's like how, you know, we there are endless conversations and content on food, on the cinema we like, on the things we, you know, the sports we play, but there's just nothing. And suddenly there's porn. That's it. You know, and that's um, that's not helping. So what are you left with? You know,
There's an education that needs to happen even prior to adding the word sex, which is just about, you know, just about intimate relationship, period, and conversation.
or steering it. I mean, what is? I don't know. If I were to ask you, what's the next? What is sexual freedom like? Or what would be that ideal world where that word seems, or that sentence seems legit?
Yeah, I mean, it's even in the West. It's still, there are aspects of it that are definitely still taboo, and the amount of women that you read in the book who still, really either struggle to have the conversation with their partner, even if it's a long-term partner, about what it is that or they're used to getting their needs met in their own time by themselves, if you know what I mean, instead of either embarrassing their partner or saying something that might, upset the relationship or the dynamic of the relationship. But one has to imagine that if both parties are happy with that aspect of their relations, how much more fulfilled they might be in all aspects of their relationship, right? If they felt freer, if it was less taboo, if they felt like it was a more of a norm for something that might be able to be discussed in relationship,
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with like, let's say this part of the world, a lot is also depending on um, the kind of people you are dealing with, right? There's the purity, acceptance, non-acceptance, caste, religion. All of these things are sort of simmering always. It's like this little thing that nobody talks about, but that's segregation right there. It's already done for you, right? That conversation is, it's sad. I don't know when that conversation will ever happen, or at least we be able to sift through that and be like, hey, this is just man, woman, or man, man, or whatever, however it is, and just have conversations or start to unpack or uncondition ourselves. Yeah, because there's so much more to it, right? And if there is sex, then there is also, I mean, is there no love? I mean, we never expand on that side, on love. Is that a thing? What is that? Is it just the dreamy, uh, poetic love that we know, or is there more to it? Is it connected? Because then there's gestures, there's nuances, there's so much that comes in and must be part of that dialogue. It's like, how do you explore the non-verbal? It's fucking invisible. It's just, it's frustrating sometimes. I mean, yeah, well, this is an endless topic. We can just go on and on and on and yeah, but
You've been very generous with your time, and I really appreciate.
thank you for taking time out. You've had a long, long day and a couple of days I hear, and yeah, this is nice.
It's a pleasure, and maybe we'll meet someday.
Yes, I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Awesome, Julian.
All right.
This is great. Thank you.
Ciao. See you.
Bye. Bye.